the mighty and resilient Merrimack River, carving through the communities of our great region. My name is Linda Lorden, proud president of Merrimack County Savings Bank, and like the river that serves as our namesake, we're a constant yet ever-changing presence. Because to us, it's bigger than banking. It's about powering communities and putting people first. It's about knowing where you came from and where you're going. That's Merrimack style. Visit us at themerrimack.com.
Hello and welcome back to Chasing Excellence, a show about chasing what truly matters. My name is Patrick Cummings. I don't know why I said that like that. My name is Patrick Cummings. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm here with just a very quick introduction to the episode this time around. We are going to be revisiting one of my favorite conversations that we've had here on the show. It is our breakdown of what we call the 100 Words of Health. And this started as a play on CrossFit's 100 Words of Fitness. We love that. It was one of the things that really attracted both Ben and I to CrossFit when we came across it in the early 2000s. I almost said mids, but we weren't mids. It was like 2005 and 6 and 7. And so we wanted to take that, incorporate the 5 factors, incorporate a broader sense of health. So that's what we've got here is a conversation around the 100 words of health and then a breakdown of the ideas and the context behind those 100 words. And we first had this conversation in May of 2021. If you have not been around for a while, it is likely you missed this. So I'm really excited to bring it back up to the surface. Couple little news and notes before we get into it though. The first is if you would like to get a question into a queue, we would love it. I say queue, what that just means is the list of questions we have for future episodes. If you'd like to get into that list, to get into a future episode, chasingexcellence.email is the best and most efficient way to do it. We send out an email on Saturdays with a link to a form, and in that form, you can ask as many questions as you'd like. Chasingexcellence.email, the link is in the show notes. The other things, a couple little updates on the premium subscriber membership thing that we've been doing for a few months now. One, I'm not going to call it the premium membership thing. And that was, I needed a word for it when we first launched it and that word came to it. From now on, I'm going to be referring to it as the Chase Club. That really doesn't matter. I just want you to know in case I mention it again at some point. And you're like, what the heck is that? It's the premium membership. So inside of that, you get some more content, you get ad-free episodes, and some more things that I'm really excited about rolling out in the next few months. Speaking of, we are going to do our second book club inside of the Chase Club. That's a lot of clubs. We're going to do a book that Ben read recently and loved called The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. So we're going to start having conversations inside the Chase Club every week starting August 25th. The book comes in 5 parts, so we're going to do 5 weeks. We're going to do 1 part per week as we go. More information inside the Chase Club as we get closer to that. And now is, if you're interested, if you've been curious, now's a great time to do it because we just started a little 25% off for your first 12-month summer special thing. So if you're curious, if you're interested, check the link in the show notes. You don't need any codes or any special links. Just go. It's just default. If you sign up for a monthly subscription, you'll get the 25% off. And we'll probably run that till end of August. Okay, my friends, without further ado, here is Ben and I from 2021 talking through the 100 Words of Health.
There's a lot of different conversations out there and little different definitions about what health is. And the traditional medical community would define health as the absence of disease. Mm-hmm. And people that listen to our podcast will not be surprised at all that is not sufficient for us. What that's saying is if you, at 70 years old, lose the capacity to get off the toilet, put on your pants, get out of bed, but you don't have disease of some sort, you're healthy. And that's just so not up to snuff for what we're trying to do. So ours is a little bit borrowed from the CrossFit definition of it, which is it's work capacity across broad time, modal domains, and age. So what that means is, just from some context, broad time means like it doesn't matter if you want to do a 100-mile bike ride or you are trying to pick up something really heavy that takes 2 seconds. Like The time doesn't matter. And moral domains doesn't matter if it's, again, hiking, skiing, lifting weights, swimming, running, rowing, biking, lunging, throwing, jumping, skiing. It doesn't matter. Like, that's what we're looking for, is really the capacity to do all of those different things. But what we're really kind of like leaning into there is the functional demands of life. This is what we're talking about when we talk about switch this paradigm over to health. The functional demands of life. We're not talking about the elite performers. We're not talking about the CrossFit games. What we're talking about is if you are not hindered, so in any way. So it's almost like it's not the absence of disease. It's the absence of anything that's going to restrict you from living life on your terms. So that's what we're trying to do. So with that definition, what is the 100 words that become the further expansion upon that and prescription behind it? And
right.
I'm gonna take a little leap here and kind of it falls in line with people I've listened to this in terms of our 5 factors of health, in terms of how you eat, how you think, how you train, how you sleep, and how you connect with other people. So you'll see that kind of like throughout these 100 words.
Yep. Cool. Okay. So what we're gonna do is I'll read it out in full. It is only 100 words, so it takes only a couple seconds. And then you and I will kind of break down each one of the sentences, each one of the kind of the concepts in there, and we'll just kind of chat about it and see where the conversation goes. All right. Health in 100 words. Create an environment in which it's easy to eat well, move often, sleep lots, think deeply, and create real connections. Be intentional. Don't just hope it happens. Chase what sets your heart on fire. Seek out challenges, feedback, and opportunities to serve something bigger than yourself. Respect your breath. Control your attention. Spend time outside. Recognize that health is the result of choices and luck. Focus on what you can control. Avoid defining it by any single number. Avoid fads and gurus. Avoid complaining and people who do. Optimize everything for consistency and sustainability. Treat yourself like someone who matters.
Treat yourself.
Treat yourself. Okay, so from the top, and you just alluded to the 5 factors that we talk about a lot here. Create an environment in which it's easy to eat well, move often, sleep lots, think deeply, and create real connections. The thing that sticks out to me is there are 2 things in here that I think maybe are worth unpacking a little bit. Things obviously we've hinted on, talked about a bit before. But the first is the environment, right?
Yeah.
What's the importance of the environment. And then the second part, which is obviously part and parcel to that, which is make it easy.
Yep.
I'd love to hear more from you about why those 2 things are so important.
Yeah, so the easy thing to dive into there, and the thing that we talk about a lot on this podcast, is the latter part of that, right? Eat well, move, so train, move well, move often, sleep lots, how you think, and the relationship side. But I like what you're pulling out is the other like precursors to that. And it's about, so the first one is the environment, which then actually the environment is what creates the ease, right? We're trying to create an environment that makes it easy to do these things, because environment is so massively impactful on outcomes. It is one of the determining factors. You can predict someone's success from a traditional measure in terms of like financial success by their zip code than you can their IQ. That is a better correlate to success in life, meaning like where they're born, aka their environment. What neighborhood they grew up in is more important to the results that they get from a financial standpoint than how smart they are. Environment is so powerful. We've talked about how willpower is a fleeting resource. It gets used up. So it's exhausting to, like, if we're trying to eat well, it's exhausting to try to eat well if you constantly have junk food in the house. It's that is not a recipe for what we talk about at the end for long-term success and consistency. Here's another way to think about this. If you were to go to a wellness retreat, like you go away for the weekend, long weekend with your significant other to a wellness spa, right? And when you go there, there's the right level of, it's a perfect temperature, the right music is playing to calm you down. Everything, all meals are prearranged and farm raised, organic, like perfect macronutrient balance. You can't eat food otherwise. You go and you do the exercise at certain times. It's so engaging and so fun. You have these great hikes where you engage. Like, people come back from those weekends feeling amazing, and it's not hard. It's not hard to follow that prescription when you're there. Why is that? Why is it not hard while you're there? One reason. They've set up the environment for you to make it as easy as possible. Now, most people just kind of like don't take control of their own lives. So they're trying to get the 2 days out of 365 every year that they can spend at those types of places, or they hope at some distant time in the future when they retire or the kids leave the house or whatever it is that they can try to create this, and they're not taking enough ownership of it right now. This is fully in your control. Is it hard to do in the beginning? Yeah, but do the hard thing now so it's easy later on. Go home, rip apart your pantry. Anything in a box or bag, get rid of it. Anything with a list of ingredients. Then set up so you can set up your home so the lights dim at a certain time. I'm not saying like manual, I don't have that, but dim your lights at a certain time at night. Yep. When you wake up in the morning, play some, Heather's playlist on Alexa is mindful guitar. At night, it's nature sounds. It's so funny, like Heather's Spotify gives you like your top 10 most playlists and then like recommendations. Yep. All of Heather's are like soft rainforest, tranquil ocean. It's because that's not saying that we're doing this perfectly, but we are getting to the next piece, and maybe this is a segue to it, but we are being super intentional with it. Yeah.
The thing I think about, and it's funny, I've been thinking about it not quite in this context, but listening to you makes me think about it, which is, it's sort of related. It's kind of like mental health, which is social media. One of the things that social media does really poorly is it makes us, if not done intentionally, if not done well, it makes us feel badly about ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things I was thinking about is, well, everybody's always focused on the outputs of a lot of things, on how I feel, right? But also health and fitness and sleep. And we focus a lot of our energies on outputs when if we only paid that attention towards the inputs, the outputs would take care of themselves. And for some reason, those things are connected to me now. The idea of, okay, well, if Instagram makes you feel bad, what people will try to do is, I just need to use Instagram less. But the solution might be, I need to do a better job of curating who I follow on Instagram so that I get rid of all of the people who make me feel like crap, even if it's my sister, even if it's my cousin, even if it's whatever, some random influencer, right? And I feel like kind of the same thing where it's like the pantry example. The inputs are the thing that's getting us. That's the thing that's stopping us from the end result that we want. But we always focus so much on, do I have the six pack yet? Have I lost the 15 pounds? Have I got the PR yet? We just need to go upstream and focus more on what are we letting in and see if that's not actually the problem.
Love that. Yeah, man, that's so good. And the parallels you drew between social media and creating a filter system. Like when you are on Instagram, every single time you're on that, you're shopping. Who do I want to allow to influence me? That's why they call them influencers. Yeah. And whether it's a paid, big, huge celebrity influencers, or it's that soccer mom that every time you see it, you notice that it gives you this weird gut feeling or something that you don't like. Like you have the control over filtering those things and becoming aware of that. And it's a hard thing to do, but once you do it, you're setting up your environment and you're setting up for in a healthy way. And maybe to kind of jump forward a little bit and we'll pull back, but I think when you read these 100 words, it's like, whoa, where's like the clean and jerks in the running? Where's like the rowing, and where's like the macros and the protein intake? It's a higher level than that, right? For nutrition, there are people that eat 80% carbohydrates that are very, very healthy. And there's people that eat like carnivore, like no carbohydrates and are healthy. That's not the most important thing. That's like what we talk about later on, like the gurus and the fads and all that stuff. The big, massive principles is number one, start taking control of your environment. And I love your social media thing because it's a perfect parallel to when you go shopping. Don't allow the junk into your house. When you go to the grocery store, that's the one hard decision you need to make however often you go grocery shopping, 2-3 days, every once a week, you have to do that. And then once it's not in the house, when you're having those weak moments or even just that temptation, it's not there. God, if there was junk in my house, I would eat it all the time. I would eat it all the time. We figured out this hack, this thing, which is it's not an option. And because it's not there, you don't search for it. You don't want it. You don't seek it out. It's not, gosh, maybe in the beginning it is a little bit, and every now and then it is like you see a commercial and, a Reese's Fast Break commercial comes on. You're like, oh my God, like that looks amazing. But the temptation is so far gone, because how often are you sitting around at 7:30 at night going, I'm going to drive to the store and get a piece of pizza right now. And very few people are doing that. Yet, let's imagine there is some amazing smelling pizza in your kitchen at 7:30 at night. What's the likelihood you're going to go and grab a piece? It's even if you don't want that much, it's like the likelihood goes up exponentially, like to the tunes of millions of a percent. It's not even measurable anymore. And it's a simple thing of controlling our environment.
Yeah. Yeah. And you alluded to it, but this bleeds right into the next line, which is be intentional. Don't just hope it happens, right? Just the first thing is, being intentional about the environment is what is it that I want at the end of this, and what do I need to set up? And it's certainly not my idea, but the idea, it's probably James Clear, the idea of making it really hard to have a bad habit, which is what you're alluding to, right? Make it really hard. If you want a piece of pizza, okay, but you're gonna have to get in the car, you're gonna have to drive 15 minutes, you're gonna have to order, like, if you really want it that bad, make it really hard.
Right.
And recognize, like, what is it that's not helping me, and what do I need to put in place to stop myself?
This is the hard one, though, because I love that you mentioned the James Clear aspect, because it doesn't happen like that. Like, health doesn't happen after you have one salad and start one meditation practice. It's not the way it works. In fact, even if you have salads every single day for the rest of your life, it still might not happen. If you go for a mile run every day, it still might not happen. It is the accumulation of these tens of thousands of little points. And that's why it's so hard for so many people, because they go, look, I stopped eating sugar and alcohol and I haven't lost any weight. Well, that's a good start to it, but it's not the totality of it. That's like saying, listen, I bought some dumbbells and I went for a walk and I'm not, I don't have a six pack yet. It's like, it takes a lot longer than that. And I think there's very few people, and probably very, very, very few people that listen to this podcast, that don't want what we're talking about, right? That don't want health, that don't want vitality, that don't want fulfillment, that don't want to be proud of their bodies and capable functioning livelihood late into their years. It's not necessarily about lifespan. It's not about living to 120. It's about health span. It's about take the same lifespan, call it 85 if you want to, and living like vibrantly right up to that day that you finally kick it. That's what we're chasing. That's not going to just happen. It's not just going to like magically appear when you wake up the next morning because you thought about it yesterday. Because you think about starting a diet next Monday doesn't mean that you're going to be healthier. It's like this thing of wishing, wanting, and hoping. It's the danger zone, because if you talk to me about like your plan to run a marathon, your body rewards you for the spoken words of that plan. It sends off dopamine signals. And you get feel goods out of it, and you feel like you're moving in the right direction, yet you have done nothing. Zero. Less than nothing's happened yet. Until you lace up your shoes and go out for that very first run, and then you do it again the next day and the next day and so on. Now we're starting to go. And it's that we need that intentionality behind it. I have a few massive principles in my life, and intention is one of those things. You get what you move yourself purposely towards. If you want a better relationship with your spouse, you have to be super intentional with that. It's not just going to happen in 10 years from now. It doesn't work that way. There's not magic pixie dust that's going to fall from the sky and all of a sudden now you're like, it happened. You have to go and do the acts. It's literally action trumps all. And that's what this is about, is you got to do it. So going back to the first one, we've talked about the eat well, even the exercise one. What's it mean for the other ones, like sleeping lots? If you want a better sleep, you don't just go to bed thinking like, I hope I sleep better tonight. I hope I sleep better tonight. You have to institute new practices and see what works and what doesn't. You have to play with different temperatures. Do you sleep better at 68 degrees or 62? Most people are in that range. Do you work better with blue light glasses before you go to bed, or staying off of screens entirely, because it's not the blue light, it's actually the stimulation of being on a device? do you work better with some sort of white noise, sleep noise or not? Or do you work better with a fan, or do you better with no noise at all? Do you do better with windows open or windows closed? Is it better if you take a shower before you go to bed or not? You have to be intentional with these things. Better sleep doesn't just manifest itself at some point. In fact, what happens to most people is their nutrition tends to get better as we age in general, because the health declines, people take more care of their bodies. But most of these other things start to fall off. As we get older, the connection fades because we get more isolated. We're no longer in school. We're no longer with our sports teams. So the connection starts to fade off. Our thinking fades off because we're not challenged academically or professionally. Our sleep gets worse because our hormones aren't the way they were. We're less active because we're not running around like toddlers and teenagers. It's like we have to be intentional with these things. If we can't do that, we can hold on to our lifespan. I'm very confident that what we're talking about here is the prescription for better health. When you start to lean into all of these different research, and there's mitochondria, and there's telomeres, and there's what happens at the cellular level, and there's RNA and DNA, and what happens at the perception and receptors of cells. And it's really fun and exciting biology to dig into. When you pull it back, you know what all those guys then talk about? Exercise more, eat better, less calories, sleep really well. I mean, it's all the stuff that we're talking. This is the life hack. Everyone wants to go to, infrared, like infrared lights and, saunas or some sort of like a keto diet. And it's this stuff. This is the jam.
Yep. The next one I really like because it takes a left turn, but in a way that I really love. The next line is chase what sets your heart on fire, which is obviously something we've talked about a lot, but talk to me about where you see or why you think passion is such an integral part of the pursuit of health.
It basically comes down to stress. If you were to optimize for one thing in your life as human beings, and you had sleep, you had nutrition, you had exercise, and you had stress, I would advise everyone to go towards the stress one. Stress will manifest itself as disease in a more pronounced way than almost any of the other factors can affect. Stress is so powerful. I just kind of alluded to the cellular level. So you have trillions of cells on your body. Each of those cells has a receptor on the outside. Think of it as like a skin. Just like your body has a receptor on the outside of it called a skin. And when you go outside and it's cold out, your body perceives the environment, it perceives the cold through your skin and goes, hey, body, it's cold outside. Kick up your metabolism so you stay at 98.6 degrees. So there's a receptor and there's an effector. The receptor is your skin. The effector is your metabolism. Every cell in your body works the same way. It's interpreting your environment. And when it interprets it, what it's doing is it's perceiving the environment. It's not the environment. It's the perceived environment that changes the epigenome. Meaning, think of genetics. Everyone talked about in 2003, they mapped the human genome. And remember how big that was? It was April of 2003. And it was holy crap, no more disease. They're going to be cloning little human Patricks. And if your arm gets chopped off, we'll just place a new arm on you and there's going to be no more disease. And do you also remember how all of a sudden after that huge big splash, it kind of got really quiet for the next decade? No one talked about it anymore. And the reason was it wasn't what they thought. The mapping of the human genome revealed that we have figured out the genetic code. But the genetic code is just a script. And your body can interpret that script in any one number of different ways. And think of it as in terms of the example I've heard used to explain this is Romeo and Juliet is a script, and it can be done in the traditional, it would be done on Broadway, the traditional Broadway sense with, that exact same script can be done by Leonardo DiCaprio in the film that was done in the late 90s. And it's the same script, but it's completely different. So different. They're saying the same things, but it's a different your genes express themselves differently based off the way they are perceiving the environment. So what is that perception? That perception is fight or flight or rest and repair. If your body is sensing stress, now acute short-term stress, good. Exercise, cold showers, facing a fear, like those things are good because they're acute and they're short. And those things actually are the recipe for a longer, healthier life. That actually does great things for the human genome, the epigenetic genome. It creates these deeper valleys for, think of it like the other way to think of the epigenome is you have these like big peaks and valleys, and these balls are dropping into these valleys. And if they stay in the valley, the gene expresses the way it's supposed to. The skeletal genes turn to skeleton. Muscular cells turn to muscle, fat turns to fat, and so on. It does what it's supposed to do. The problem is when it gets disrupted, think like those balls in between valleys and there's an earthquake and they start bouncing where they're not supposed to be. That's the epigenome from like toxins or something this is what causes cancers. Like it gets whoa out of whack and the genome takes a massive turn for the worst and chronic disease manifests itself. Well, that shakeup is chronic stress. The biggest thing that we can do there, yes, you could get poisoned, right? Like poison or a toxin for sure. And that's an acute thing. But that's not the thing that's getting most of us. The thing that's getting most of us is chronic disease. It's happened mostly through lifestyle factors. Lifestyle factors control the epigenome. And what we want to do is make sure that we are making sure we're managing and mitigating stress, because if we feel the fight or flight response, what happens is in fight or flight, your body sends everything away from the gut and it shuts off your immune system. Literally, like your immune system shuts off. You cannot fight off diseases if you are stressed. That's a terrible, terrible thing. Now, science knows this. If you're going to get an organ transplant, what do? They give you a stressor, inject a stressor into you, so your body goes into fight or flight mode, your immune system goes down, and you'll absorb the new. Otherwise, it'll fight it off as like an invader, a toxin. It'll fight it because the immune system's so strong. So what we need to be able to do is, getting back to this line, is make sure that we're doing what sets our heart on fire. Because if we enjoy the journey, if we can blur the line between work and play every single day, if we're excited about Monday morning, not stressed out about Monday morning, if we don't even know really when we're working and when we're playing because it's all a part of our pursuit of our lives. Take what you love to do most, whether it's writing, Patrick, or somebody else, it's skiing, or it's connecting with other people, or it's performing, or it's whatever it might be. That saying is, don't ask what the world needs, ask what sets your heart on fire, because what the world needs is more people with their heart on fire. That's what we should all be pursuing. If we do this, it looks like it's okay. They're bucking the trend. They're not going to, they're not going to Wall Street. They're not trying to trace the corporate ladder. They're not going to be an accountant. They're not going to go to dental or medical school. They're not going to be a lawyer. They're going to chase their passions. Oh, they're like a lone wolf. No, those people are doing probably the best thing they can for their health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I keep thinking about, we started this conversation about maybe the classic definition of health being the absence of disease. And as we keep talking, keep thinking about, okay, if it's not the absence of health, it's the presence of fill in the blank, right? It's the presence of vitality. It's the presence of passion, right? And that to me is a better definition of health than the absence of anything, but it's the presence of, right, whatever that right word is.
Yeah. I love that. It's we can fill in the blank, but it's that the presence of passion, excitement, joy, engagement. Like, do you get up with a spring in your step, or are you kind of like, complaining your way through life?
Yeah. Next line, seek out challenges, feedback, and opportunities to serve something bigger than yourself. Talked a little bit about challenges a few seconds ago. Is it right, the right kind of stress, the useful kind of stress? What else do you think about when you look at this?
So I think the challenge is that it's like what we're trying to do is, so there's the right kind of stressors, those acute stressors like hard workouts. So in terms of health span, there's one type of workouts that is shown to be most effective for improving your health span, and that's high intensity interval training. Shocker. There is correlations between aerobic exercise like runners and lower cardiovascular risk and things like that. And then also similar to that is like people that do cold plunges, people that do challenges, like do hard things. Like your body it's all about this evolution, right? If your body is stressed in the right way, like a workout, it grows and it adapts and becomes better and stronger. That's what we're looking for. Feedback is, again, it goes back to that mental aspect. If you seek out feedback, it means that you're curious as opposed to judgmental. And if you shy away from feedback, if you're afraid of feedback, if you're afraid of criticism, if you're afraid of people saying, hey, have you thought about this? Or what if you did this? Or you could do this better. What you're constantly trying to do then is you're shifting from that growth to that fixed mindset. And that fixed mindset is a much more stressful way to live your life. It just is, because you're seeking out ways to validate yourself and doing everything you can to avoid things that might expose a vulnerability, as opposed to being curious and going, hey, I'm not very good at that yet. I wonder if I ... right? I'm not very good at swimming yet. Like what people that aren't seeking feedback or challenges, what they do is they avoid swimming altogether. Whereas other people get in the pool, get with the swim coach, they learn, they grow, they're working the learning muscles. Like literally, feedback equals growth. Like it's the shortcut to growth. If we're thinking about health, lifespan, health span, all that, what we're trying to do is not only preserve our capacity, but grow it. We want to expand upon it. So that's super important. And the last one takes a little bit of a turn, but it's the opportunities to serve something bigger than yourself. There's a few studies done on longevity, and some of the massive correlates are relationships, but happiness is a really big one when it comes down to happiness. There's 3 real driving factors of happiness, one of which is to give back. So think like charity, but here's the kicker to that is money doesn't move the needle. It moves the needle for the person receiving it. If they're, homeless and you give them $100,000, that's going to massively impact their lives. Strangely enough, it doesn't impact the giver's life, because money is a renewable resource. You give away $100,000, you have the potential to earn that back. The thing that when it says serve something bigger than yourself, the underlying theme there is serve in a way that you're giving up your time. Time is a non-renewable resource. When you give it up for somebody else, you're serving the greater humanity in a way that makes you more at peace with yourself. And again, the stress thing that we talked about to help the epigenome express itself in the way it's supposed to falls in line a lot better than it would be if you ignore this.
Yeah, I think about 2 things with this line, in addition to obviously everything you just said. The first is just the idea of seeking out challenges. I think that there's a very important distinction that needs to be made between voluntary challenges and involuntary challenges, right? Nobody really signs up for the involuntary challenges, right? The sick kid, the lost job, etc. And so when people hear challenges, I think it's easy to put all challenges into the I didn't want this one bucket, right? But there's so much value in, back to the idea of being intentional, to choose the challenges that you engage in for a couple of reasons. One, because that helps you grow in the direction that you hope to grow in. But also, I think by choosing challenges, you retain some of that passion, you retain some of that interest. And because you retain those things, you can tackle those challenges better. And because you can tackle those challenges better, you teach yourself that you can tackle challenges. So when the involuntary ones show up, you're a little bit better equipped because you've taught yourself that you're capable of dealing with challenges, right? And so I think it's really important to make sure you pull apart that not all challenges are the same, and actually you can chase the ones that make the most sense to you, and then you can respond to the ones that you didn't sign up for, but that kind of were introduced to you. So that's the first thing I think about. And then the second thing, just to tie back to the passion a little bit, I think the thing to me that's really important to recognize and point out is passion without purpose is not particularly useful. But when you can tie yourself to serving something bigger than yourself, you introduce the idea of purpose. And if you can do that, if you can marry those 2 ideas, that I have this passion and I've figured out a way for me to use it to be helpful, to be useful, to be valuable to another person, another community, another idea, then suddenly the passion, I think, is only additive. I think it's only helpful. I don't think it has any of those negative ramifications of spinning your wheels, of chasing something that might not get you where you want to go. And so I think the marrying of the passion and the purpose is really important.
Yeah, I love that. Well said.
Respect your breath. We're going to do this one at a time. Respect your breath.
I like the way that we wrote this here, where it's respect your breath, because we're not saying here is, do box breathing or practice Wim Hof or nasal breathe or anything like that. We're not saying, what we're saying is pay attention. And it's a telltale. If you are doing short, shallow breaths through your chest, something's up. That's the stress thing, which makes sense when we're running away from saber-toothed tigers. It might be like that. We're not supposed to be like that all the time. We're supposed to be relaxed, and we're supposed to be doing diaphragmatic breathing. So there's a whole bunch of research out there that shows that breath work, the way you breathe, has massive effects on your health. And this is just a nod to that, which is pay attention. If it's off, be aware that it's off. Try and bring some intentionality back to the breath. And then maybe even pick up a breath practice, whatever that might look like, whether it's meditation, a box breathing, some sort of like Soma or Wim Hof or whatever it might be. Because breath is two things. It's a lever that you can move to help tweak your health, but it's also like a telltale meter and lets you know if something's out of whack. If you get shortness of breath, if you get tightness in your chest, that's a sign that we're in the sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight, and we need to be pulled back into the parasympathetic, that rest, repair, rest, digest. So that's the idea behind the breath one.
We've got much more of this conversation about the 100 words of health in just 2 minutes. But first, a quick word of thanks from a few of our sponsors. We're brought to you with support from OneSkin. Pay attention if you have skin, and if you don't, feel free to skip ahead a minute or two. OneSkin is the brand bringing science to skincare. Head to oneskin.co and use the code excellence to save yourself 15% off any one of their world-class skin products. OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company, focusing on the cellular aspects of aging to keep your skin looking and acting younger for longer. Founded by an all-woman team of scientists, their products are backed by extensive lab and clinical data. They've even earned the Skin Safe seal of approval, meaning they're free from over 1,500 chemicals and preservatives that can irritate your skin. What sets OneSkin apart is their focus on treating the root cause of aging rather than just the symptoms. They have this amazing peptide, the OS01, that has been proven to reverse skin's biological age by reducing the number of senescent cells by up to 50%. Senescent cells, often known as zombie cells. If you're ready to take your skincare to the next level, go check out OneSkin. For a limited time, you can try OneSkin for 15% off with the code excellence when you check out at oneskin.co. That's 15% off at oneskin.co with code excellence. After you purchase, let them know you heard about them from this here show. Give your skin the scientifically proven care it deserves with OneSkin. We're also brought to you by Hatch. We do not need to tell you about the importance of sleep since we talk about it nearly every week here on the show. So here's something that can help you get to bed earlier and wake up better. Head to hatch.co/excellence to learn more about the Hatch Restore, an amazing device that can rewrite your entire sleep routine. It is designed to teach your body when it's time to get to bed and wake up so you can better prioritize rest. I've been using it to customize my bedtime routine with a selection of light and audio cues, and I've been alternating between 20 minutes of calming music while I read and listening to their Pillow Talk, which offers a bunch of different audio series designed to entertain you to sleep, all without the screens that disrupt your rest and drive you bananas. If you're still staring at your phone before getting to sleep, Pillow Talk is the perfect antidote. It'll give your brain something to latch onto as you settle into sleep, allowing you to finally, I say, commit to a screen-free bedroom. I don't know how many times I have to talk about this before you do it. Screen-free bedrooms. Right now, Hatch is offering you $20 off your purchase of the Hatch Restore and free shipping. Visit hatch.co/excellence to claim this offer. That's hatch.co/excellence for $20 off and free shipping. Don't miss out on this opportunity to revolutionize your sleep routine. All right, my friends, let's get back into the conversation around the 100 words of health. Next one, control your attention.
So I think this is a little bit to do with intentionality, but it's again, like you've said this so well. I think that I love the idea of controlling your attention. It's like what we pay attention to. First off, it's like the frequency illusion. If you're going to buy a new Honda Civic, all of a sudden you see Honda Civics everywhere. So if you're focusing on negative things, if you're focusing on how your wife is controlling, if you focus on how your kids never listen to you, if you focus on how your boss never respects your work, like That's what you're going to see. You're going to see that everywhere. And that's not a great way to navigate life. Like what you want to do is, again, set up your environment in a way that's healthy and productive. And we know that a healthy, productive mindset is one where people believe that the future is brighter than the past, that optimism. And if you pay attention to being an optimistic person rather than a pessimistic person, you actually change. Again, it's a psychobiological model, right? Your mind is actually controlling what's happening on the cellular level inside your body. Yes, there is some catastrophic things that could happen. Yes, there are genetic things that I'm not saying if you focus on being 6 feet tall, you be 6 feet tall. It's not always worked like that.
That's how I got there.
Yeah,
that's how I got it.
You have a more powerful mind than I do by about 3 inches. So your attention really matters. Attention, intention, perspective, understanding your thoughts. Like just the awareness of your thoughts and the awareness that you really don't have control over your thoughts. But the moment you realize that you have thoughts, you're elevating yourself out of what mystics or spiritual people or Eckhart Tolle would call like the unconscious, right? The unconscious mind is we're navigating life through just set default motor patterns that are based off of experiences, and we are prognosticating future events based off of those past ones, and we're living in the matrix. We're living in a false paradigm. It's not real. And the moment you become aware that your thoughts in your head are not actually you, that's the first step to enlightenment, awokenness, which would be ultimately where you live with no stress. If you get to that point, there's no stress in your life. Like the monks that just spend 18 hours a day meditating, like they can get there. Like for us, that's probably we're probably not going to become enlightened, but what we can do is at least take the first step towards becoming more aware. And when you become aware of what you're focusing your attention on, it's a really powerful thing that can manifest itself physically from a health perspective.
One of the ways that I've come to think about attention is, we talk a lot about, just generally, we talk a lot about, the non-renewable resources that we all have. And generally we talk about time as being the most important one, but I actually think that attention is the most important non-renewable resource in the sense of it teaches you where to put your time, right? And the example I always give is like if you and your significant other are, you've got a night planned, a date or whatever, and you can make a choice between sitting down and having a 15-minute, 20-minute heart-to-heart conversation or spend 2 hours watching a Netflix movie in silence. Which one of those two scenarios are going to be more valuable to that relationship? Well, it's not the 2 hours, so it can't be the time. The time spent isn't the marker that's going to move the needle the most. It's the attention. It's the attention on each other that's ultimately going to be more valuable. So 5 minutes could be more valuable than 5 hours if the attention is spent in the right way. And I just think it's so powerful to just start looking at everything through. I only have this moment. What am I paying attention to? Because I can only pay attention to one thing. And is this the most valuable thing I can be paying attention to?
Yeah, that goes right to if we're trying to get the most bang for our buck in terms of these 5 factors. If we're trying to spend time in the gym, it's not the time in the gym. They've done this study where it's not, the 10,000 hours rule, where amateurs a lot of times will train even harder than professionals, more hours. What they're not doing is bringing the same level of attention to their practice. The attention, and this is what gets lost in the Malcolm Gladwell's popularization of Eric Erickson's classical violinist.
10,000 hours.
Yep. The 10,000 hours rule. The 10,000 hours is what got popularized, but it wasn't the 10,000 hours. It was 10,000 hours of deliberate practice, meaning super attention on what they were doing. Because a lot of us can spend 10,000 hours and make no gains whatsoever, aka driving. Right? Like you might be a better driver than you were when you were 16, but you're not going to the Indianapolis 500. Like you've done 10,000 hours of driving. Like why are you not a pro? Why are you not like on the high circuit? It's because you didn't do those with total attention. So I love that idea about that, Patrick. Yeah, the non-renewable resource. It's not time. It's focus and attention.
Right. Spend time outside. Speaking of time.
So again, in terms of the health factor, there's so much that goes to this. There is a thing about nature. If you can't get into nature because you live in a city, like get outside. Now you could argue like, well, inside I have an air filter and it's better air, and I live in a city that's bad population. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about getting outside from underneath the fluorescent light in the computer screen, outside behind Netflix, get out into the real world, experience it, feel the ground on your feet, see the trees. There is this really big psychological, hormonal thing that happens when we get into nature. And people that have done this know this. And it's one of the things that if there's one of these things that I don't do very well, this is it. I wish that I actually track I try to get outside and do this every day. But it's a thing that I'd probably do the worst of all the things that I track. It's probably the one.
Yeah. What I think about there is and it could very well have also been in this, which is just the idea of going for a walk. Yeah. Right. Ideally going for a walk outside, and just thinking, kind of connecting it to the first thing we talked about, which is make it easy for yourself to think deeply. That's a pretty good way to do it, right? Give yourself the space, give yourself the time to take a walk out through the woods, ideally get out in the sun, and give yourself the space necessary to think through some things.
Yeah, we had Rob Wolf on the podcast, and anybody that missed that one, how much he talked about the power of vitamin D through the sun. It's just like massive.
Yeah. I'm going to batch the next two because I think that they're related, though we can peel them apart if we want to. Recognize that health is the result of choices and luck. Focus on what you can control.
Okay, so we kind of teased this a little bit, but as much as you focus on these things, if you create the perfect environment and you live these factors perfectly there's still the chance that you might get hit by a bus. If you get hit by a bus and you spend the rest of your life in a coma, that's bad luck. Same thing with, you might have been born with a genetic disorder. There is a measure of luck to this. But as we talked about, there also is a measure of control. And that control happens through our choices. And what we need to do is go, hey, you were dealt a deck of cards. That's the way it goes. That's the deck of cards you have. Now you can sit there and choose to put the cards face down and put your head in your hands and just kind of not play the game. Or you could try to make the best possible choices you can along the way. And again, it speaks to this control, even to the genetics, right? Do you want that Shakespearean play to be the traditional sense, or this thing with, guns and pistols and gangs and lowriders and rap music? And that was the same script. Literally every single word is the exact same, but it's a completely different expression and a completely different experience going through that with the same script. And that's determined mostly by our choices. The level of stress that we're experiencing, choice. Do you live in a friendly or hostile world? Make that decision. And the choices that we're making in terms of, and they're hard, I'm not saying it's easy, of, are you going to have the sundae or the salad? Are you going to go to the gym or hit the snooze button? Are you going to go to bed early or continue to Netflix? Those are the choices that control our health, and we are in control of those things. So we talk about this a lot in terms of the circle of control versus the circle of concern. It's so easy and tempting to focus on the circle of concern, like the things that are going wrong. Yet those may be outside of our control. And if they are, you got to kind of go, hey, you broke your leg. Yep, that was bad luck. You were, going hiking and a boulder came rolling down the mountain and wiped you out. That's not your fault. That was no choice. That was just happened. Now that you got your broken leg, now it's time to make more right choices with that deck of cards, and just constantly evolving and navigating the life with the best choice that we possibly can, and then let everything else fall off your shoulders.
Yeah. I think for me, the thing that sticks out here is just, I think it's really easy with thinking about health, and maybe it's not, it's not us. It's not often CrossFitters. It's probably not people listening. But this idea that health is all luck, it's all a crapshoot. We don't have any control over it. My mom was overweight, so I'm overweight. And I think I think it's really important to recognize that there is some of that. You're not crazy, but back to the idea of attention. What are you paying attention to? Are you paying attention to the things you can't control? Or are you paying attention to, even if it's a small sliver that you can't control? And every time you pay attention to the luck side of things, you're taking away from your ability to affect change in the areas that you do actually have control over.
So think about the things that could potentially take our life, right? So you're hit by a car. That's a traumatic thing. You are poisoned. That's a toxic thing. You are born with a genetic disorder that shortens your lifespan. Those are completely outside your control and a matter of luck. Yep. They just are. But the one that's going to take the majority of us do not die from car accidents, genetic diseases, or poisoning. That's not how most of us are going. Most of us are going because of chronic disease. Chronic disease is not luck. Chronic disease is a choice. It is literally, you can choose to have or not have chronic disease. It is 100% determined by lifestyle choices. Type 2 diabetes is a chronic disease. It is 100% due to lifestyle choices. Type 1 diabetes is genetic. That was the bad luck. I'm sorry. That sucks for you. That's something you need to navigate on your own. So that's the understanding. Chronic heart disease, like your parents might have been more, like because your parents had it, you might have it, cancers, you might have it. Some of these are on the gray. It might be genetic. It might be chronic. That's why not all cancers are considered chronic disease, but certain ones are. There are certain ones, like lots of lung disease is a choice of smoking. Like it's just a matter of, and now it could be even like a choice of like where you choose to live. Is there radon in your home? That's the number 2 cause for lung disease. So they're choices. Like, and understanding that is so powerful because, to your point, it gets rid of this, I was just unlucky that I got type 2 diabetes. Yep. Like the moment that you start doing air squats and start eating processed carbohydrates, you no longer have type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes comes back again when you live a sedentary lifestyle, when you choose not to get off the couch and you decide to have the sugary meal.
Avoid defining it by any single number. This is something that I learned from EC. So EC Sinkowski, who we've had on the show, she and I have another podcast called The Consistency Project. And that's one of the things that she talks about a lot. And it's unfortunately always weight. It's always the weight on the scale. And the idea being like, that's important. That's a factor. That's a thing that we need to look at. That's a metric worth paying attention to. But don't be so simplistic. Don't be so reductive as to think that that's the only thing that's going to be the determinant of healthy or not healthy.
Yeah, I like the fact that we have these 5 factors of health, right? Because almost by definition, you can't focus on one thing. If your mile time is going down and down and down and down and down, that's good. I want that for everybody to a certain extent. But what I want to do is I'd actually encourage people to step away from numbers a lot in general anyway. You know, as much as we want measurable, observable, repeatable data for our workouts, as much as we want to, weigh and measure our food and stuff like that, there's a point of diminishing returns. And there's a point where it's no longer healthy, and to the point where you get so fixated on one of those things that you're actually doing more harm than you would be doing good if you didn't otherwise. Case in point, like weight on the scale, right? If you're so fixated on weight on the scale to the point where it causes a eating disorder, that's not a healthy practice for us. Now, weight on the scale is a big thing that people should be paying attention to, particularly if you're over 100 pounds overweight. That is the one thing I would have people do. I think that person losing 50 pounds can have more beneficial health effects than anything else. That's for that individual. But once that individual gets to a healthy rate range, that's no longer the factor. It's going to be the host of other things. Because when you fixate on one, you're by default negating the other 5. So, the other 4, I should say. So the importance here is absolutely is what you said, is take the whole picture. It's not optimizing one, it's optimizing us.
Yeah, love that. Avoid fads and gurus.
It's just... It's kind of, it's kind of like, it's just like, what else is there to say, right? There's all these things that are, the next thing is going to come. Like that zone diet, then paleo, then macros, then keto, then intermittent fasting, then it's, yep. Okay, what are the through lines?
Yeah, what are the principles?
Yeah, exactly. What's the principles? Yeah. So same thing with gurus. If you want to find somebody that you trust, That's awesome. I love that. There's people that are my go-tos. But if it's the next guy with the next greatest thing, be weary, particularly if there's revenue associated with what they're pushing.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a friend. You may know him. His name's Darren. He opened the first CrossFit gym in New Zealand, Darren Ellis. And he says something, I've worked with him a little bit, and he said something that I love, which is seek out guides, not gurus. And that's a big distinction. And maybe it's hard to figure out, but like you've got to start figuring out who is, like EC is a great guide. I think you're a great guide. That's different than a guru. A guru, kind of to your point, is like, hey, I've got the new latest thing for $32.99, whatever. I can give it to you, right?
Billy Blanks with like the Taibo boxing, right? It's yep. There's the next thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Suzanne Summers with the Thigh Master.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So guides, not gurus. Avoid complaining and people who do. We've certainly talked about complaining a lot on this.
Yeah, that's again, like just goes to the environment thing. And what we're trying to do is create an environment where we see the abundance in our lives and not the scarcity. Yep. We see the get-tos instead of the have-tos. And if we're around people that are complaining, are they a fountain or a drain? And you want to surround yourself with fountains, not drains.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, unsurprisingly, a lot of these things are connected, right? So there's the environment part of it, but there's also the stress that you spoke so much about, right? People who complain create stress, right? They create stress in other people because they feel stress themselves, and they feel like that somehow unloads it. But really, what it's just sharing the stress. And then when people complain, well, where does your attention go? To the things they're complaining about, right? It's like they walk around saying red cars.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, well, shit, and I'm looking at red cars.
Yeah. To the point, it's if you do that, you're going to continually see obstacles, and obstacles are hard. Are hard. Obstacles suck, unless you see the same exact thing, but it's an opportunity, right? There was opportunities within every single one of these so-called obstacles, and if you surround yourself just with the people that see the obstacles, you're going to have a hard time seeing them as well, because they're going red car, red car, red car, red car.
Yep. Optimize everything for consistency and sustainability.
So we talked about this a little bit earlier. You going for a 1 mile run is better than going for a 0 mile run. But what really matters is that 1 mile run is not going to make you any fitter. What makes you fitter is that 1 mile run done 3 days a week for the next year. Choosing the salad over the sundae is the better choice right now, but it's not going to make a difference in your health a year from now. It's the consistent choices along the way. And it's that aggregation of marginal gains, right? It doesn't take, you don't need to pick up and move to, live with the monks. You don't need to go and live in a health and wellness retreat. You don't need to make those massive, massive life changes. It's just the couple dozen or so small ones every day. Are you going to bed at a certain time? Is there a nighttime routine? Are you spending time journaling and meditating? And are you exercising every day? Are you spending time connecting with the people that you care most about in your life? Are you challenging yourself? Are you looking for feedback? Like all those little things over time. And don't be in a rush. Honestly, like if I was to put a number to this, it's 5 years. Like it takes 5 years for these little things to add up to something. But the reason I say that is because in 5 years, it's going to be this exponential difference. In a year, you might be 10 or 15 pounds lighter. You might have lower triglycerides and a better fasting glucose. You might be able to do another pull-up or two. But in 5 years, it could be the difference of like chronic disease versus complete fulfillment.
Yeah. Yep. Love that. And stealing from EC one more time. One of the things she says that I think is just spot on. If you're considering a new diet or a meal plan or something, a change in that, if you can't see yourself doing that thing for a year, then what's the point of doing it for 30 days? Because you're just going to end up back to where you started, and that's ultimately and obviously.
Yeah, I might challenge that one though, because I want people to challenge themselves and to find new experiences. And I can't see myself, when I started off doing Wim Hof breathing, I could not see myself doing Wim Hof breathing for an entire year. That was just no possible way. But I wanted to try
if you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. So because of that, people go, well, oh my God, the magnitude of not having a sweet for and the rest of my life, oh my God, that's terrible. That's horrific. But can I go today? It's like,
yeah. And I think, I totally agree with that. And I think that's a good example. And what I would say is that's the sustainability part, right? So if you're signing up for, I'm never eating sweets again, there's a chance that that's not going to be that successful over the long run. But if you figure out where that sweet spot is can I do this for the next 30 days? And can I do this for beyond that? And if you can't, then you've got to figure out what is the sustainable end of it? What is the consistent end of it that I can do? And so maybe it's every Thursday I get a cookie, right? Whatever that might be. And being really honest with yourself about how hard can I push without falling apart? Because when we fall apart, we too often go back to where we started from, which is obviously a place that we're not super happy with, right? And so it's just always kind of making baby steps forward, making, those little victories, those little wins. I think that to me is what I read into the aim for consistency and sustainability is like, where is that sweet spot? Last one, treat yourself like someone who matters.
I think it's really easy for us to default to outside of ourselves. So this might be a strange and obscure example, but Tony Blauer, who's the self-defense guide, not guru, in our space, and really like Blauer tactical, like the guy's legit. And he works with everyone from, special forces to first responders to MMA to like regular people every day. And he tells a story of he goes in, he's giving a presentation, a talk, a seminar to a handful of mothers. And he asks them, like, if you were being attacked, what would you do? And the majority of them don't do a whole lot. He says, now imagine you open your front door and your 9-year-old daughter is being attacked. What would you do? And they're like, they go ape wild on him right there just for even the thought of it. And they're like, how dare you like even insinuate? Like it's because we're so, we forget to take care of ourselves. And that's all he's trying to get to is why would you not protect yourself the same way you would protect your daughter? And I think it's easy for us to kind of say to ourselves, like, this moment right here isn't that impactful. This moment right here isn't that important. It's not really, I'm not that person that it matters that much to. Yes, Tom Brady should eat that way. Yes, Tom Brady should sleep a certain way. Yes, Tom Brady should get body work done. But not me because ... Yes, there are other people that should do meditation. Yes, there are other people that should do this. And we're not treating ourselves. And by the way, this is not like an income thing. We could do all those, like you can eat really clean and you get body work done, like a foam roller, all done really easily for yourself. But yet we kind of just default like those other people are at a higher level than me. They deserve that thing or that matters more for them. And we don't take the initiative to do these things for ourselves.
Thank you so much for listening to the show this week. Thank you always for listening to the show. Thank you for sharing the show with your friends and on the social medias. When we see them, we love them and we appreciate them. Quick reminder, if you want to get questions into the queue, chasingexcellence.email. While you're there, consider joining us inside the Chase Club. We're going to do that book club soon, as well as some other things. Right now, we've got a 25% off discount through the summer. So if you want to join us, now's a great time. The link to that is in the show notes. Thank you so very much. Ben and I will be back soon for a brand new episode of Chasing Excellence.